Hi everybody. Very interesting. I start part two of my two videos per day, and I am having my own personal chuckle here because the topic of the video is unattaching to outcomes. And I just did a whole 20-minute video and didn't record it. So you can imagine my surprise when I was like, oh wow, that was, really from the heart and it felt really good. And I feel good when I do a good video and ba-boom, it didn't record. So talk about a perfect opportunity. And that's where I'll start this video is uh, talking a little bit about the theme that we were discussing last time, which is coming out of the Lion's Gate, unattaching from outcomes. Boy, did I just get a lesson in that. But what's really funny is that I kind of see it as a test that I just passed. And I've been getting tested a lot, over and over and over again. And there is nothing more joyous than passing a test. At least for me. I have always been a test taker. I always love to take tests in school. I like to see what I've learned. I don't know. I guess I'm probably the teacher's pet of some way. I know I was my fourth grade teacher's pet. She's my stepmom now. But I've always been a great student because I love to learn. I love to learn and I love to apply what I learn. And I just had a wonderful opportunity to apply what I'm teaching. And they say, teach and so shall you learn. There's never been a more apt description of that term than what I just went through. So anyways, I'm just going to start from scratch, and I am in my authentic, genuine self, probably even more than I was before. So onward and upward. Okay. We were talking the last video on topics of where we're at in terms of unattaching and redefining and refining and retuning what it means to be attached to things and how that affects us. I found a really good way to identify that in terms of how can I tell when I'm attached to something. I feel better when. Do you find yourself saying that? I feel better when. I feel better when this happens, when I'm eating these kinds of foods, when I work out, when so-and-so calls me, when so-and-so responds in such and such a way. I feel better when. Sometimes I even discovered, like for example, in a situation where someone grew up without a lot of huggy, touchy kind of feeling in their lives, and they might actually say, I feel better when people leave me alone, or I feel better when people are more distant with me. It doesn't matter what it is. We're attached to things that make us feel better. And the whole thing about moving into the higher vibrational frequencies is becoming comfortable, happy, at peace, and in oneness, no matter what happens. So, I have been experiencing this myself, and almost every person that I've been speaking with, no matter who they are and no matter where they are in their spiritual journeys, it seems everyone is being asked the same thing by the universe. How are you going to let go of this particular expectation? Okay, it's time to let go of this particular expectation. In other words, the universe is basically saying to everyone, no, 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 you're attached to that. Nope, all right, not going to allow it. And at first, I found that extremely frustrating. Oh my God, I'm just having to let go every single second of every single day. But I started to understand that you cannot move into a fifth dimensional reality, a fifth dimensional experience in consciousness when you try to take your 3D perspectives with you. They don't coexist in the same place. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I have been working with a friend of mine, and she's actually given me permission to discuss this, a friend of mine in Canada. And she's dealing with what I would consider a sacred union, where she has become spiritually awakened to the connection, and so is he. They're very, very mutually aware of the connection. And there's a lot of this going on right now in my realm because I deal a lot with sacred unions and relationships and things of that nature. And within that realm, it does seem that most of these people are being very tested in terms of unattaching from the other person. So I've seen quite a bit of spiritual growth in, all the people that I've been working with over the last 6 months, in terms of standing in their authentic self and becoming more and more centered in themselves and less needy outside of themselves. But now we're going through the refining process. And in this particular case, they are, getting along very well, but it's as if she's going through a period of time where she's needing to unattach from the need for the actual relationship itself, and he's having to unattach from experiences that he's having in his own realm. And so we got talking, and we found it very fascinating that, she had just gotten to a place where she was going to unattach, but she was going to unattach ego style. And ego style is, okay, I'm done with this. I'm over it. I think I'm going to move on to greener pastures. Enough of this. And we started talking about that, and I said, think about it this way. Number one, now that you've moved into a higher spiritual connection, even though you're resonating between the higher fifth dimensional vibration and the third dimensional vibration, do you really think that you're going to be satisfied in a third dimensional perspective? And can you get to the fifth dimensional perspective without going through what you have to with this union that you're in now? And the more we talked about it, the more she realized, you must learn to continue to unattach from everything outside yourself and not expect something outside of yourself, or you won't continue to have the resonance of the fifth dimensional vibration and connection. And so what we did was we kind of took her up to a higher perspective. And so we were able to look at her situation from, how is this helping in terms of soul growth for both people? And so we kind of took an analysis of that and looked at it a little bit. And really what it came down to is that she was able to see, oh, wow, I am given the perfect circumstances to learn the lessons of unattachment, because neither person was really wanting to go anywhere. It's just this negotiation for trying to figure out how they're going to coexist in a relationship and trying to place that in the 3D box instead of moving it up to the higher vibrations. So I was like, you have absolutely the perfect experiment ground and testing ground to continue to allow yourself to let go, let go, let go, put yourself through the test over and over and over again until you get it. Once you get it, then does that mean that this particular being is the person that you really choose to be with? Well, not necessarily. If that person does not move and grow into the same, dimensional space that you're in, then by all means you are, welcome and encouraged by your soul to move on and move forward. But why would you deprive yourself of the learning experience to get you to the place that you want to be? And frankly, when you are in a three-dimensional space and you contrast it with the fifth dimensional space, there really is no comparison. Because in a fifth dimensional space, you are standing in your authentic power and you know who you are. And especially in terms of relationship, why would you ever want to be in relationship with someone who is not at that same dimensional space? But guess what? You have to get there first. And if you are experiencing a situation where you're in relation with someone and you are not completely within your own personal power, and you are not in a place where you are completely okay no matter what happens, and I mean completely okay, then you are not, you're not to a place where you're actually ready for that type of higher dimensional connection yet anyway. So why not experience it where you are, especially if people are showing up? So it's just a little bit of an example, one example of a way where unattaching is showing up. And it's really important to, realize that the lower perspective is always going to leave you feeling like, I'm not okay. In one shape or form or another, I'm not okay. And the choice daily is, do you wish to stay in that place? So that's just a little bit of food for thought in terms of moving up into higher dimensional reality. Of course, I always welcome your thoughts and your comments. And I do spiritual counseling. So if you are interested in any help getting through that, because everybody's at different places. And if you resonate with what I say, then that may be an indication that I'm someone that you'd want to work with. But there are people around all over right now that are going through different variations of the same experiences. And like, for example, I had someone come to me within the last week who her circumstances are almost identical to mine. And somehow she knew that I was someone that could be of help to her. But anyways, there's help available as we go through this. And of course, we are getting ready to move into some of these really intense energies of, the second round of awakening that I talked about in my part 1. And I have no doubt that for some of you who, are just beginning this awakening process, I'm talking about, my experience and those of the people around me, but we're all at different stages. And so no matter what stage you're at, things are going to intensify because right now that's what the universe is asking us. In order for you to fulfill your soul's request at this time space, at this juncture of where you have decided to place yourself here in this time space, we're being asked to step into our higher beings. And our higher self is really what we are. And that was one of the things when I talked about, I think in the last video, I talked about, an article that had a lot of impact on me, and it was one that Tim Wilde wrote. And that was about, we really are our higher selves. We really are that. The thing that we've got going right now against us, and it's really not against us, but it is part of our experience here, is we are having to wake up through some of this muck and mud of what we would call the ego. And the ego, colors everything, puts different glasses on that gives us different focuses and perspectives. And it seems that the whole spiritual awakening process is learning how to take off those glasses so that you can see from your true nature of who you really are. And that is your higher perspective. Your higher perspective is standing right here. It's just what kind of glasses are you putting on? What kind of filters are you seeing through? What kind of ugly clothes and sweaters are you donning your body with instead of the graces of the wonderful robes that are worthy of your, of your presence? So anyways, you can reach me through my website at www.truesacredunion.com, but I also have a couple of Facebook groups, so if you're interested in joining those, Heart Connections and Sacred Union is one of them. I also have another group called Raising Vibrational Frequencies. And actually there's a third one that I've had for a while that I'm going to start working with more, which is called What on Earth 2015, which is talking a little bit more about some of the changes and shifts that are happening on the planet that we can visually see. So I would love it if you would join, any of those groups that you resonate with. Oh, and of course, I have my YouTube channel, so I'm going to continue to put out videos. And I'm also working right now on a video call-in line format. I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start interviewing some of the teachers in the community, and then I'm going to be putting us in a situation where through calling like a radio show type format where people can call in and get some, guidance just from a different perspective. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. As always, please feel free to comment below. Always love to hear what you have to say. And, if there's any ideas that you have or questions that you have about your own experience and things that you might like to see in a future video, please just let me know, because I'm always open to addressing questions and things of that nature in these videos. So thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to the opportunity to speak with you again. Have a very blessed day.